Hey, what's up guys, it's Cypher, and today I'm bringing you my Glass Cannon Sorcerer PvP video. This is my full spell damage. I wouldn't really consider it a Glass Cannon. You can't really be a Glass Cannon Sorc in today's meta, but it's a full spell damage, low regen build, and you're basically sacrificing a lot to increase your spell damage to very high numbers so you can get those insane Crystal Frag hits and basically one-shot people. And if you saw, I do have a video of me using this build. I got 6 kills with 1 Dawnbreaker. I'll have that linked in the description below if you just want to see what this build is capable of doing at its prime. So let's get straight into it. Let's cover skills. On our front bar, this is our dual wield bar. We are using Structured Entropy. This is from the Mages Guild. The reason we have it on our front bar, of course, is to get Major Sorcery. That's going to give us 20% extra damage onto our next attack. So what usually I'll do is I'll proc a Crystal Frag, I'll apply Curse, I'll cast Structured Entropy, and then I'll throw the frag and it'll hit for 20% harder, or I'll cast it right before I use my Dawnbreaker. Crystal Fragments, of course, that's just bread and butter damage for Sorcs. Streak, you could use Ball of Lightning, and the reason I say you can use Ball of Lightning is because you are using Detonation with this build, so Ball of Lightning will help you cast off the Detonation, but I prefer Streak just because with so much spell damage, your Streak is going to be doing an insane amount of, damage. So it's definitely worth it, especially against Nightblades who go into Cloak, especially against people who dodge roll. You can streak through them, do a lot of damage, and then maybe hit them with a Crystal Frag while they're stunned. So I love Streak. Of course, after the Streak nerf coming in August, I might go to Ball of Lightning because it's going to be more efficient than Streak in my opinion, but we'll see. Endless Fury. This is so you can proc your Crystal Frags because you're not using Crushing Shock, you're not using light attacks. So you need to be able to do something while out of range, and it's also going to give you a little bit of burst once you drop them below 20% health. So usually what I'll do is I'll spam Endless Fury to proc my Crystal Frag, and then I'll shoot out the Crystal Frag and the curses and everything. Curse, of course, this is just going to help you set up more burst. Dawnbreaker of Smiting. Now you could put Overload, you could put Soul Strike, but I prefer Dawnbreaker of Smiting. It goes through dodge roll, it hits extremely hard, and it's AoE based. So that video that I have posted in the description of this build video wouldn't be possible if I wasn't using Dawnbreaker or Smiting. So that's our dual wield bar. People always ask me like, why do you use dual wield? And that's because dual wield gives you the most spell damage, and that's not a bug, it's not an exploit, it's just that's how the numbers lay out. Dual wield gives you more spell damage, but you do sacrifice something because with this build you're not light attacking as much because you don't have a Destro Staff, you don't have like a heavy attack or light attack options to do damage, so that kind of you do make a sacrifice by using a dual wield over like a Destro Staff, but you just get that extra spell damage. On our second bar, it's going to be our Resto bar. Now, for here, I put Soul Assault. The only reason I put Soul Assault is because it's one of the only ultimates, not the only ultimate, but it's an ultimate that goes through block. So usually if I'm going against like a perma block tank, I'll hit them with a Soul Assault after applying Detonation and Curse. That usually takes care of them. You could put Storm Match Knock, you can put Barrier if you have the passives to get regen for that. You can put, anything you really want here. It doesn't really matter what you're using on your second ult bar. You have your 3 shields, Hardened Ward, Harness Magicka, Healing Ward, Daedric Mines, and then Inevitable Detonation. You could use Inevitable if you want to, hit from range, or if you want to be in people's faces, Proxy Det also works as well. I've played with both. They're both really fun right now. The only reason I have spec into Inevitable is because I forgot to spec back to Proxy to play with it a little more. But both morphs work perfectly fine for this. Daedric Mines, this is just so you can surround yourself with some pretty explosive mines, and they hit really hard, and you can stack them on top of each other in small areas. And it's just my favorite thing to do with this build. Get in a tight corner, throw down the mines, apply Curse, streak through opponents, and just melt them with the damage you're doing. So let's cover some passives. Of course, you want all the passives for all your Sorc skill lines, right? But one thing in particular is for your dual wields, this last passive is the only one that's actually going to help you. And what it does is each sword increases the damage of your weapon attacks by 2.5%. So we're using 2 swords, and that's going to increase our weapon damage, our weapon attacks by 5%. But for some reason, this passive applies to everything. It doesn't just apply to weapon attacks. So this might be a bug. Might not be intended, but it is the way it is. And if Zemax wants to keep it in like this, put these 2 points into Twin Blade and Blunt. You're going to get 5% extra damage on all your attacks. All your attacks. So that's it for passes, really. You want your light armor passes, of course. You want your Fighters Guild passives, Mages Guild passives. All that is really important. when people ask me passives, I always say put as many passives as you can. The ones that help you, just read the passive. Okay, this reduces the cost, put it in. This gives you more stats, put it in. You know what I'm saying? Just keep putting it in. For race, the best race for this build is definitely going to be high elf, but it doesn't mean you can't run it with anything else, really. Like, racial passives do make a difference, but it doesn't mean you can't pull it off with another race, just to be clear. High elf will work, like, if I had to pick the top 3 races for this, High Elf and Breton, just because of Max Magicka, that's where you're getting your spell damage. Dark Elf also helps as well. So, but it doesn't mean you can't pull it off with other classes. I mean, other races. Now let's go into our gear. So it's a full spell damage setup, right? So 2 spell damage, Hat of the Worm Cult, and Shoes of the Worm Cult. You get this from doing vet dungeons. I forgot which ones, but you can Google it. 4 martial knowledge. I'm using V13 on some of the pieces because I'm poor. And I don't really want to invest into upgrading my gear until V16 comes out in August. So 4 pieces of martial knowledge, 2 pieces of adroitness, so the belt and the necklace, 2 pieces Cyrodiil's Light for the rings and the spell damage, 2 piece Torix Pact for spell damage, and Master's Resto Staff. That's just the only reason I'm using the Master's Resto Staff is because you don't actually have to have a set resto piece here. You can have any crafted piece here, and you're good to go. But the Master's Resto will just give you the most efficient, option there, just because it gives you more magicka when you have it equipped. Of course, Nirnhone on the swords for extra spell pen, and that's about it. That's the setup for the gear. With this setup, you'll have about 1367 magic recovery, 2573 unbuffed spell damage. That can go up to 3200 on a good day. 32% spell crit, 31k max magicka, 20.7k health. I have all my points to magicka, of course. Atronach Stone is definitely necessary for the setup because you're going to have low regen. And let's get into champion points. I am a werewolf for this build just because I like that extra stam regen. Next patch, I might be vampire. I don't know yet. I'll keep you guys updated. Let's cover champion points real quick. The red and green aren't as important as the blue, or the red isn't as important as. But we'll just go into it. I don't have any points here. I have a few here, 12 and 15, but most of my points are into Bastion, which is going to increase my my shields by 20.7%. That's really important for a Sorc. You got to understand, why would you put points into reducing crit damage when your shields don't get crit? Or increasing your resistance when your shields don't have resistance. So it's very easy for a Sorc to put most of their points into Bastion. That's probably the smartest thing to do. The only reason I have at least 10 here is just to get the spell absorption passive, and it's okay to have just like spare points into here. But most of your points should go into increasing your shield size. Now over here, 21 into Magician, reducing spell cost. 53 into increasing recovery. This is a very low recovery build, so you need to make up for that by putting a lot of points into here. Some points to stamina, 20 into tumbling. I initially didn't put a lot of points into tumbling on my magicka builds, but I realized that putting points into tumbling on a magic build is actually very, very effective, considering the high cost you have for dodge rolling and CC break. That's going to apply to a very large number, and it's going to reduce it by a decent amount. So on my stamina and magicka builds, I do put a lot of points into tumbling. I think it's really important. Now over here, 36 points into increasing our crit damage, 22 into elemental expert. The thing is, streak, overload, mage's fury, that's all still elemental damage, so you still want to put a decent amount. 22 is what I put. 1 to spell erosion for elemental damage, but then the rest goes into increasing your magic damage. That's going to increase your detonation, your curse, your crystal frag. So those are your heavy hitters. You want to put a lot of points into your heavy hitters. So the spell absorption proc, which shields up, it doesn't, but just whenever it does, whenever you do have no shields up, it could give you a little bit of magicka back. Someone from the chat asked that, but no, it doesn't proc on shields. So that's it for the build, guys. If you have any questions, please let me know. This is a very